Hi everyone. So we're going to talk about the Docker as a containerization tool for any application that need to be ported anywhere, including on-premises cloud as well as the public cloud, wherever you have the Docker demo or Docker host installed. So um, let me introduce myself. I am Containerization Director of Unigenius Software Inc. And I have been working for this IT industries for the past 22 years, and I've been working with various technologies and applications. Worked with various clients on installing applications and automating the infrastructure, installing Docker and Kubernetes clusters, and Rancher as an orchestration tool. How do we leverage the orchestration tools for deploying applications, containers, and services, and also microservices based architectures. And today we're going to discuss about the Docker. So, so the topics we're going to cover in this Docker exercise is going to be Docker containerization and Docker ecosystem, and advantages of Docker. What are the advantages of using Docker? Why we need to use Docker? And what are the implications or challenges in using Docker? And how are we going to resolve that? How are we going to overcome that? That's going to be that's going to be discussed here. And also the Docker installation. How do we install Docker in various operating systems? How do we get started with Docker? And what is Docker Compose and Docker Swarm? These are the orchestration tools, Docker orchestration tools, Docker Compose. Docker Swarm is kind of Docker clustering, cluster management as well as Docker orchestration tool. Shipyard is another Docker orchestration tool, and that has been used for many clients. And other supports which we require for the Docker will be discussed here. With this, let's jump into the containers. What is containers and what is VM? What is it? What's the difference between the virtual machine and the container? VM stands for virtual machine. So the containers are going to be isolated or share the OS. Even VMs are isolated from host OS, but it runs on top of the host OS. There is a hypervisor layer over which we are going to provision the VMs, which is the entire stack of guest OS, and it doesn't share anything with the host OS. And where in containers is going to utilize the host OS or host kernel as the main kernel for running the application's containers. Apart from that, you'll have its own set of binaries, dependency libraries, and also the minimum viable required operating system libraries that are required for the container to start and for the applications inside the container to start. So that's the main difference between these two. So compared to VMs, containers are lightweight, lighter in nature, so which in turn makes the container to start very quick, whereas VMs takes in minutes, containers takes in within seconds. So that's going to be a major advantage of using VM. And also the resource utilization and fault isolation is very easy. Whenever you run a service or an application inside the container, it doesn't impact the other running containers in the same host OS where the Docker engine is installed, because we are going to be there for the self-contained applications. So we can just monitor the particular container, and if there is a problem with the container, we can just try the specific container and then recreate the container anytime, anywhere where the Docker engine is running. So that's the advantage of portability in case of containerization and, and fault isolation. These are the different advantages which we are going to talk about in detail in the upcoming video. With this, we'll move on to the containerization and Docker. So what is containerization? So containerization is a lightweight, an alternative to a full machine virtualization where the virtualization takes place and virtualization creates a virtual machine itself. Rather than here containerization, it creates a container on top of the host OS where the Docker engine is running. Docker engine is nothing but Docker daemon process which takes care of this resource provisioning and also which takes care of the resource sharing and OS sharing across multiple containers and their running process inside the containers. So it encapsulates an application in a container with its own operating system or own operating environment which is required. Not even operating system, it's not just an operating environment. Minimum operating environment that's required, the runtime that's required for the application to run. And then what's Docker? So Docker is an open source container virtualization framework. So it is an open source framework. It's readily available. The containerization, the community edition of Docker is readily available. Anyone can download it and then install it on any operating system. It has a Windows flavor for with the Docker Windows desktop flavor, and then we have Windows and Ubuntu and any Linux-based VMs its own flavor and its own installation um, packages available there in the Docker platform. So Docker containers are designed to run on everything from physical computers to virtual machines. Bare metal servers, it can run on bare metal server also. It can run on physical computer to virtual machines and opens to cloud clusters, public instances and more. Rocket is a containerization model like Docker developed by Core OS people that serves as an alternative to Docker. And this is also another containerization tool which can be used or leveraged for creating the containers. So what developers used to do is the Ubuntu Linux-based operating system has announced the LXD containerization engine. That's another engine like Rocket. So you have a Docker for containerization, you have Linux for containerization, and Linux LXD containerization, and you already have a Rocket as a containerization technology. All are like containerization, similar kind of technology by different vendors. Spoon is another Windows orchestration alternative for the Docker. So for Docker, it may not work for many of the containers, many of the Windows-based containers. It has a limited edition of Windows containers, and right now there are a lot of many supporting Windows containers are getting ramped up by the Microsoft guys, and then it can run on Azure cloud very well as in container service, container instances, Azure container instances, ACIs, or it can run as an AKS, Azure Kubernetes services. We'll talk about what's Kubernetes later. So that's Kubernetes is one of the orchestration engine that can be leveraged for containers to run, containers to be managed and orchestrated among the container hosts. Docker has been an instant hit with developers. So lot of users over there. It has a lot of user base, and Docker has been used by many enterprises. Uh, very much with familiar with simple and it's simple and very familiar with users. And Docker is a basic tool like Git or Java that you can start incorporating into your daily development and operating systems practices or operations practices. With this, we'll wind up the first video. So we will see you in the next video. Till that time, you can explore what's Docker and how it is different from VM, by exploring to various websites and how you can download it. You can just look at that docker.com, and also what's Docker Hub, where we can push the images as a registry. So you can just have a look at that, which we are going to discuss in the next video. Thank you very much for watching this video.